Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the amazing Maxace Medusa, but it is now the 2.0 variant, showcasing this beautiful black coated blade that is also a dagger at this point. A lot of you have pointed out, that's a clone of the No Limit Night Stalker. This design, sometimes this is the case with some of these Chinese OEMs. They sell the same designs to each other and then just run the design through the name of another company. So it could be that No Limit is either acting as their own OEM or has an OEM that is producing the design based on the information that they received through the purchase of the design from Maxace. And then Maxace is also acting as an OEM for the same thing or having somebody else make it and selling it under Maxace. But as far as I know from talking with Maxace, this is all authorized, right? So just so you guys know, that's a weird way of doing it. It doesn't generally work like that over here, but that is the case here. This is the Maxace version is the only way to get the black with the black coating here. Now, the coating lists as TAC 3000. There's some information online that suggests that this is some type of ceramic coating, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know exactly. So anybody who has any additional information about that, let everybody know down in the comments section. That'd be great. Thanks so much to Maxace for providing this knife for review. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. This is probably, based on what I have handled, dollar for dollar, this is probably the most impressive automatic OTF knife on the market. The build is 70-75 aluminum, so that's aluminum with a higher toughness rating. And then it has a legitimate titanium inlay, a pretty large titanium inlay running through here, which is not something that we see when it comes to OTF builds. The precision on this thing is off the charts and is identical to other Maxace knives. Anybody who's ever held a Maxace knife or experienced the Maxace knife knows that this is like some of the most precision manufacturing in the world. Really, really amazing. These come in at $278, which is a lot of money, but when we're talking about knives that are actually executed the same way, I have never experienced something that hits this mark like that. This is really just spectacular. I'm going to compare it with a few other things here, but this review won't be a whole lot different than my original review of the Medusa, because really the only things that are different are the black coating and the fact that it is an actual dagger edge instead of a single edge. So real quick, we'll get some specs, and then we'll just kind of talk about this here real quick. Overall length of the Maxace Medusa is coming in at, if you measure to the back of the handle frame, or like the scales here, we're coming in at about 8.8 inches. If we go all the way to the glass breaker, you could call it 9.25. Blade length, if you want to go all the way to this mark right here, right? Let's go to that center line right there first. So if we want to go there, we're talking 3.75. If you want to go to that all the back of the frame there, or the top of the frame, 3.9 inches. Your cutting edge is 3.6 inches. How about some size comparisons? Let's do some OTFs first. Up against the Microtech Ultratech, a very popular one. And then the closest thing that it compares to legitimately is the Microtech Direct Delta. The Direct Delta is just a hair longer. And the blade, honestly, there's more cutting edge on the Medusa. And there's actually the actual blade length is about identical. I know it looks identical here, but I'm telling you, looking at them side by, like looking straight over them from my angle, this the Microtech Direct Delta is just a hair longer when we consider every last bit of the knife. And it's really, I think a lot of it is just this last little bit of the handle is a little bit longer. But that's the closest thing that it compares to. Let's go ahead and put it up against some other common folding knives, up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. There we go. How about up against the Demco 80 20.5. Alrighty, how about the Spyderco Para 3? Just doing a few here today. And last but not least, we'll do the Benchmade Bug Out. Okay, how's the action on this guy? Very good. Incredibly snappy, very powerful, and the lockup solidity, oh, it's so minimal. It's literally just a hair different from a deadlock. This thing locks up hard. Has a lot of power. The only downside, it takes a lot of force. This thing requires, I know, I'm making it look easy, and it's not like, oh, my thumb is so strong, guys. I've worked my thumb out so hard. I play with a lot of OTFs, right? Have experienced many. And a lot of it, once you figure it out, it's not like you have to become strong in the thumb. You just have to come at it at the right angle. I think what happens is a lot of people kind of push down and in. I've watched people do this. Once they figure it out, right? They don't, believe it or not, they don't have to go through some sort of Mega Man Ultra workout. You don't have to be like a hardened, barbarian, right? I think there's a lot of people who would have you believe that. No, you don't. You just have to find the right angle. It's not I would say it's more of a parlor trick than anything else. But it does require more force than a lot of like Microtechs, which can be uncomfortable mainly because of the jimping on the buttons. But be prepared. The first few times you do it, you might have to do this, where you use two, fingers until you figure out you really have to find that leverage down low or that traction down low and push it straight forward. And once you do that, you'll be just fine. But there is a lot of power behind that thing. It'll still, do this, where it's not going to, fire through. There's a lot of power there. Definitely wouldn't want to have your bare skin up against that, but it'll still do this thing where you'll have to reset it, right? So if you're new to knives and you're like, well, in the movie, it just goes right through the surface. That's movie nonsense. It's not, even the most powerful double action OTF knives in the world are not going to puncture a solid surface unless that surface is paper, right? Even single action OTFs will likely not pierce directly through the surface, right? So that is the case with this one as well, and I think that that's good. We don't want these things so powerful that they're puncturing. That would make them insanely dangerous, especially considering how easy it is for people to get their hands on these things. These are tools. They are designed as tools first, and I appreciate these types of elements. Anyways, let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's the same as the original Medusa, just a hair thicker. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Where is it? Where did you go? There you are. Let's turn this over. I feel like it should be this way. Yeah, it's just like a long rectangle. It is longer than the PM2, but because of the shape of the body, it's really not going to be that difficult to carry. Again, for materials, we are looking at aluminum. TC4, I'm sorry. We're looking at 7075 aluminum. M390 for the blade. And titanium for the inlay. Fairly heavy, 4.48 ounces as compared with it's identical. Really? It's exactly the same? Okay. It's exactly the same as the Direct Delta. Definitely going to be heavier than the Microtech Ultratech. That's likely due to, I don't know, I guess maybe the titanium, it adds extra weight. Maybe the chassis on the inside is just less overall steel on the Direct Delta. Balance, your center point, your balance point is about right here, right behind the button. So not perfectly balanced and not perfect ratios, but pretty good, right? You're getting a lot of blade, and you're also getting the convenience of an OTF and two edges for the amount of weight of knife that you're carrying in your pocket. So not bad at all. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel, or that pinned comment in the comment section. It's right at the top. I believe all of these screws are T8, and I am correct. We have 6 T8 screws. I used to be really intimidated taking apart OTFs, but they're really not all that complicated. Certainly more complicated than a pillar or sandwich construction titanium frame lock or a steel and G10 liner lock, right? But really not all that bad. As long as you kind of know your way around it, or if you don't, if you just be careful and make sure you have a place to put your hardware, you should be okay. But obviously, if it doesn't need to be cleaned out, then I would just not do it. Blade stock thickness. You know, it never fails. The one thing that I forget to put in a convenient location before every review are the calipers. Those things get buried under everything, and I can never find them. Here they are. Blade stock thickness, we have to go all the way to the middle there. Here we go. About 125,000, so about what I expected. Okay, so you get two edges. It's M390. I have no idea if this is heat treated properly. I think Maxace does a decent job with heat treat, but you'll have to check out, you know, maybe check with Transparent Knives or somebody else who checks the Rockwell hardness on this stuff, actually has proper Rockwell hardness testing equipment. But the blade is M390, and you get two edges, right? So while it is not very thin, it certainly is thin enough to cut and slice and puncture and all of that. And you get double the edge retention, right? So that's nice. Really, this thing is, the main thing here with this knife is that the machining quality and execution of these materials is something that is simply not present in American OTFs that are, you know, the competition for this thing. Like I said, the Dirac Delta is about as close as we can get to this thing. And the Dirac Delta is made by Microtech, and it's made here in the United States, right? I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, the Maxace is absolutely better. Truthfully, the overall quality between these two knives, like if you were to take them out and field test them and put them through like a destruction test, I would imagine they would both fare about the same. There's almost a $100 difference between these two knives. The Dirac Delta coming in at like $380. In fact, it's more than I think this one's $278, right? So it's 100 more, right? Does that mean that Microtech is stealing from everybody and ripping everybody off while Maxace is just a beautiful, you know, charitable company who has only good intentions in mind? No, it's because it costs more money to make this knife in the United States, even though it doesn't have titanium, versus this knife with all of this machining complexity and titanium in China. It just does. It costs way less to make this stuff in China, period. You know, the overall execution of this and the complexity of it is on a different level versus the Dirac Delta. So it depends on what it is that you appreciate. If you're just trying to get like the highest quality and most precision made double action OTF dollar for dollar in existence, well, it's the Maxace Medusa 2.0, right? I don't think there's really a whole lot of arguments that need to take place. But if you're somebody who appreciates, you know, American knife making or American knife manufacturing, and you still want to get something that's incredibly well made and durable and powerful and reliable, right, then it might be worth it to you to spend the extra $100 and get the Dirac Delta. The other thing here is that this isn't a Dirac Delta versus Medusa video, but the Dirac Delta has a phase switch, which I will admit is a little bit better versus the spine switch here. Yeah, it's a preference thing. Really is beautiful, and I'll say versus the standard Medusa, I do like the double edge. I think it looks a little better, and just the intricate machining that goes into the aluminum and titanium, and the inlay work on the, you know, with the titanium inlaid into the aluminum. It's really just incredible. Every last edge of this thing is just beautifully done. Beautiful titanium pocket clip. Glass breaker, I don't really care for glass breakers, but it looks good. Everything looks good. The blade, if it looks like there are blemishes on the blade, it's literally just fingerprints. The only downside to this coating is that it is a fingerprint magnet. It looks like a polished DLC. Again, I don't know exactly what the coating is. It wasn't very descriptive, and I wasn't able to get a lot of information from Maxace. So it could be great. It could be mediocre. Fortunately, M390 is 20% chromium, so it's not like it needs the extra corrosion resistance. And it also, you know, will hold a good... I'm not going to say that it's a tough composition because it's not, but this, OTF knives are automatic, dual action automatic knives are not designed to be the most durable knives in the world. They will stand up to it pretty well, but, you know, a cold steel triad lock is going to be more durable for sure. With an OTF, of course, you gain the convenience and safety of the blade retracting completely and totally inside the handle. I always make an argument for OTFs. I always think it's ridiculous, people who are just like, weapon, 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 it's a weapon, it's terrifying. Or the people who are like, yeah, weapon, it's so cool. This is definitely a weapon and can't be considered anything else. Both of those parties are stupid. It's both of those The people on the left and the people on the right, it's just idiotic, right? Sure. Can it be used as a weapon? Sure. So can a rolling pin, right? Or a piece of glass, or anything can be. It's the user determines that. To me, this is a safe and convenient cutting tool. You have the convenience of the blade easily and conveniently with a little bit of force deploying out of the handle, right? In one simple movement. Not a bunch of flashy deedly doodly, all that stuff you do with like a ballad song or whatever. No, it's just one movement. Bang, it's ready to go. Make your cut, put it away, right? If this happens to lay out on a table and a child gets, oh my God, what if a child gets, there's absolutely no way a child, unless your child is literally Hercules, there is no way a kid is going to deploy this. It is, I'm telling you, the amount of deliberate force that it takes to deploy this blade, it's a lot, right? On that same note, it's also basically impossible for these types of knives to deploy in your pocket because it is not a primed single action OTF. A single action OTF is primed. At the press of the button, the blade deploys. It's like a release of the spring. This, you are creating the spring tension by pushing the switch up, stretching the springs, and then the springs throw the blade. Same way when you pull it back down, it stretches and pulls the blade back in, right? So you have to create, it is always under tension either way, just a little bit, but you create the majority of the tension when you retract the blade or deploy the blade. So what I'm saying here in a nutshell is all of the laws against switchblades, because they're weapons and somehow more dangerous than regular, that's all complete and total nonsense. It's just based on a lack of understanding and complete and total unnecessary fear, right? But the problem is that we have a bunch of idiotic couch ninjas still running around out there, waving these things around and automatically using them and labeling them as weapons, right? So it's easy for people to be like, look, see, we got this weird, guy using this as a weapon. So that's a problem, right? These are tools. Anything can be used as a weapon. There is no difference between this and the Ontario Rat Model 1 or Model 2, right? Both of them can be, like if we're going to talk about deployment speed, right? They can both be deployed exactly. There's absolutely nothing that, whoops, did I run it into something? They can both be deployed and this one can be retracted faster than this one, right? But as far as deployment, both of them are going to be exactly the same, right? So that's just silly. Back to the knife itself. There's not really a whole lot that I can say that I did not say in the original Maxace Medusa review. It really is magnificent. The blade, the symmetry of the blade, which by the way is almost completely and totally perfect. That line does go perfectly out to the tip on both sides. And it is perfectly symmetrical other than one teeny tiny area. Can we highlight it? I don't think it's actually on this side. Is it on this side? One little teeny tiny area. The flat to the right of this particular opening hole, or this speed hole on the blade, this is slightly thinner on this side than it is on this side. Okay. Outside, I mean, that's something that you might find to be present on, pretty much any knife, right? A little issue like that. It's the same on my Direct Delta. One of the flats, the flat on the right side, is slightly thinner on one of these than it is, on this side. It's slightly thinner than it is on the other side, right? So no big deal. A little note here, in the event that is like misfiring, I don't think that it is. Hey everybody, Metal Complex from the future here. So this knife actually experienced a couple of misfires during the review. And I went on to talk, but you'll see it in the video. I don't want to, cut anything out. I want you guys to be able to see everything. I went on to talk about, well, you can use like KPL and that'll help a little bit, or you can use rem oil. And that's true, you can use KPL and you can use 10 weight. And I think that will slowly correct issues if there's like a little bit too much friction, or you're having issues with it. But right after the video, I went out and just sprayed the blade down with rem oil and sprayed rem oil on the inside of it. Whatever it was that was causing the issue with this knife was completely eliminated, and the firing power is incredible now. So, just to be clear, get yourself some REM oil if you want to make sure that your OTFs are always fully operational. It absolutely seems to work better, and in this case, it fixed the problem and made the action better than it was right out of the box, better than it's been since I've had it. So anyways, just some quick clarification. Back to the video. Yeah, it's fine. KPL, you can absolutely add a drop of KPL or 10-weight nano oil to the, I'm not sure why we are not releasing that. There we go. But a drop of KPL or 10-weight nano oil on the blade is something that will absolutely help it. I would kind of make sure that it's spread out evenly. There are parts of the blade that are probably closer to the flat that are just going to, rub on the chassis periodically. It's just how it's going to be. But if you find that your knife is not deploying with the same speed that you expect it to, or the same smoothness, right? Something like that will absolutely help it. Retract it in and out. You might do it more than what I did it, right? You don't have to clear it all right away, but 10 or so cycles of this, and it might actually slow it down just a little bit for, a few throws. But after a while, a lot of that starts to set into everything, and surfaces that are creating excess friction start to smooth up a bit, and that'll help out. If you continue to have an issue, it's likely that it means, that some type of debris is caught on some part of the blade or the chassis, or, any of the parts that sort of trade paint, so to speak, as they pass by. That might be the case, right? But as long as it's throwing the blade out and locking out, then you should be okay. I don't know why I'm using this particular video as like a guide to OTF maintenance. You can also use REM oil. REM oil is the Teflon-based stuff that Microtech uses. I've just found the KPL and 10 weight, I think, does it a little bit better, but it's up to you. I really don't think that there's a whole lot more to say here about this knife that I didn't say in the first review. The pocket clip works great. Ergonomically, it's very comfortable because all the surfaces are knocked down. It is sort of an elongated rectangle, so there's no specific lock-in. You do have to be, it's not as ergonomic as, something like, the 80-20 where you have like specific lines to lock in different places, right? And there are going to be some things that you may not want to do with a blade that has a tip as delicate as the Maxace Medusa. It just depends on what you use your knife for. But overall, whether you're a collector, an enthusiast, somebody who uses their knives, this is something that everybody can appreciate. And it's really, really hard to argue with this price tag. $278 is honestly an absolutely incredible price tag for this thing. And it blows away the competition when we're talking about, the final product. But again, that is not because, Maxace is some magical charitable company. It's because they are manufacturing these things in China, and their costs for manufacturing are substantially lower than the cost for labor for their competition, such as Microtech, Guardian Tactical, or other companies that are making this stuff in the United States, right? But, all that being said, do I recommend this? Yeah. Definitely. This is an extremely recommendable. If you're looking for an incredible quality OTF, yes. Unless you already have an issue deploying your OTFs like the Ultratech. If deploying the Ultratech is hard for you, I would not pick this up because this definitely requires more force for sure. Did we actually? I think this is maybe the KPL that I put on the blade. It feels like there's a little bit of friction there, and I think the KPL is working itself in. But I think we actually did have a misfire in the middle of the review there. I'm going to chalk that up to maybe debris being trapped in there. That's usually because the amount of force that's generated by that spring is more than see, now it's got plenty. It doesn't feel like anything's slowing it down. So maybe that was the case, but don't think that there's something wrong with it right away, right? If you're having, after you oil it, right, if you fire it, 50 times and you're getting, 3 or 4 misfires repeatedly over and over and over again, then you might have an issue. You might need to take it apart. But for the most part, just a little bit of lubricant will solve the issue. As it sits, This is a recommendable knife. It's going to go in my most recommended knives playlist. I don't know that there's a whole lot more that I really need to say about this. Thanks again to Maxace for providing this for review. I will link this knife down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.